Last team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Is Trevor Lawrence going to take that next step this season? Doesn't have to be MVP candidacy like Carson Wentz in 2017 with Doug Peterson. Just take a next step, because in his rookie year, a lot of people have doubts whether he can even be a franchise quarterback at this level. So do you think he's going to take that step for now people to say, you know what, he's a franchise guy?
Me personally, I'm still a fan of Trevor Lawrence, and I still believe in his abilities. Especially now you're bringing ETN back, you bring him a weapon. Let me not say a tremendous upgrade in Christian Kirk, but nope. I'm not gonna get rude. But Christian Kirk's an upgrade for sure.
You think so?
What
Kirk is good, man.
I don't know, man. I'm not.
That's a cold take from you, Joel.
What was that?
No, putting a guy that hasn't played much over Kirk. I don't know.
Oh, this guy.
He doesn't play.
No. My point being, let me continue with what I'm saying. I apologize. Now you bring in Doug Peterson, also, who's been great in quarterback development. I believe that Trevor Lawrence is going to be put in a better situation to succeed this year, where his offensive line's in a good spot. He doesn't have to worry about that. The one thing that I would like to see them do more of is surround him with wide receiver talent. And I think as the years go on, the Jacksonville Jaguars will do that. But defensively, I still have my worries about them. You bring in Walker with the number 1 overall pick. That's still a question as of right now, because you're going based off physical attributes instead of actual production. Me, personally, I would have gone the safer route and try to meet in the middle with an Aiden Hutchinson who had both the production and the physical attributes. But that's just me. What do I know? Just a guy that talks on a podcast, a pretty successful one if I say so myself. However, I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to take a nice stride in his development. I'm not too sure based off the current landscape of the Jaguars whether it's going to be one that propels him into the top 15 conversation or the top 10 conversation. I think that the Jaguars are still their ways away from being true contenders. But I think that now you bring in Doug Peterson, you bring in Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk. Hopefully James Robinson comes back. He showed to be very effective, not only in the run, but as well as the pass. I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to be in some decent hands. Unfortunately for the team as a whole, I don't see a great outcome for them come the end of the season. Right now I have them with a record of 4-13. I'll go over the wins. I have them winning actually week 1 at Washington. I have them beating the Colts. I have them beating Houston, and I have them beating Tennessee week 18. And that's all that I have them winning this season. Going against the Chargers, Philadelphia, that's going to be difficult. Indianapolis, I have Indianapolis beating them, splitting, I have the Giants beating them. I have Denver beating them, of course, Las Vegas, Kansas City, Baltimore. Detroit's one of those that you probably could question, but I'm higher on Detroit this season. I definitely like the route that Detroit's going this season, or I should say the projection of Detroit this season I'm pretty high on. And Tennessee, I don't see it. Dallas, I don't see it. Jets, I gave you guys that W. And Houston, I think that they do end up splitting as well. So that's 4-13 right there.
I'm very interested when we get to the NFC East, what your record's going to be for the Giants.
I know, man.
You got them with a few wins.
I mean, what, 2, 3 right now? I mean,
might be more than I have.
I'm hoping the Giants can teeter into that 7, but I don't know, bro.
You think the Giants or Lions have a better record?
Lions. I like the Lions. I do. Their offense is cute, bro. I'll be honest.
Jameson,
Swift, Jameson,
Jameson's not
Amon Ra. I know, but still, he's going to be probably back around week 4, week 5, optimistically. Amon Ra, like I said, Jameson Williams, Swift, Jamal Williams. That offensive line is fantastic.
They got some guys.
Goff just has to be
what he was last year.
If a little bit better. I need a little bit better. And then they can actually win maybe ceiling 8 games.
That's fair. Trevor Lawrence, it really depends on what you think that next step is, because we talked about it. Last year was a historically terrible season.
It was bad.
But you had a ton go wrong for him, right? First of all, the roster wasn't that great. Their other first-round pick, Travis Etienne, had a Liz Frank injury. He was out the entire season. That was going to be his best friend, his checkdown, who obviously he played with at Clemson, had a great connection with. Then you had Urban Meyer, the whole Urban Meyer situation with probably one of the top 3 biggest failures in terms of head coaches of all time. Urban Meyer came in. Everyone expected him to change the culture. be able to develop Trevor Lawrence, develop this organization really, and it obviously didn't go well. So going into this season, it can't be worse, right? There is no way that you have the roster has improved, the coaching has improved. Trevor Lawrence going into year 2, a full offseason, training camp, OTAs, mini camp, going through this for the second year, being able to get acquainted with all of his guys, getting Travis Etienne back, James Robinson potentially being back at some point during the season, although he did tear his Achilles, was that week 17, 18?
Late.
But you should be excited if you're a Jaguars fan, because similar to the Texans, you have a young team, right? You should be excited for Trevor and Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd in the second round, Travis Etienne, who when last time we saw him on the field was an electric playmaking running back. So for the Jaguars, I have a similar record. I have them going 4-13. The 3 wins that I have that I feel somewhat confident in, I think they're going to split with Tennessee. They're going to beat Houston. I have them winning against the Giants. And then there's a few games, whether that's at Washington, potentially at Detroit. I do. Wow. Potentially at Detroit, potentially at the Jets, potentially at Houston again. I think they'll win one of those games and get to 4-13. But overall, they're still a ways away. I think Jaguars fans know this. I think you should be expecting this. The AFC is just incredibly difficult. And if you go through this entire schedule, there's not many winnable games on here, unfortunately. Now, we did see the Jaguars go out and beat the Bills, in the regular season, although it was 9-6 and might have been the weirdest game of the entire 2021 season. Who knows? Maybe they go and steal a game here or there. We saw Doug Peterson, a very successful head coach, win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles, who obviously is not the top-tier quarterback that we're expecting Trevor Lawrence to be. But, still one of the most highly touted prospects of all times. It's one bad year. I'm not going to overreact to it completely. But if Trevor Lawrence puts up another really incredible stinker this upcoming season, then I'm probably going to get on the train where he's not going to work out. Because we talked about a few months ago, those first 2 seasons are really important for a quarterback's development, and it really shows what type of quarterback they're going to be for the rest of their career. But at least going into this 2022 season, his second year in the league, getting a few guys in free agency to improve their offensive line, the wide receiver room, as well as get ETN back in the backfield, I think you should be excited. Hopefully he's able to develop and turn into that franchise quarterback they've been missing.
I'm a bit higher on the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence in general, because I think last year, despite the dysfunction, they competed in games. They competed versus the Bengals on Thursday Night Football. They were leading at halftime. They could have won that game. They beat the Dolphins. That was a huge win. They beat the Bills. They competed against the Colts both times. Second time, just beat them outright, and it wasn't even a competition. They competed against the Falcons. So they competed against the Jets. There's a lot of close games there that could have went their way but just didn't go their way. Urban Meyer was a complete disaster. Darrell Bevell was a complete disaster as an OC, as a play caller. Coaching matters so much in the NFL that if you don't have competent coaching, if you have average coaching, it can cost you a lot. When you have arguably one of the worst coaches of all time in NFL history, in Urban Meyer, that's a pretty big deal. 32nd ranked offense, and when you look at the stats, Trevor Lawrence, it shows that he didn't have a good rookie season. He was very bad. But during the season, I'm not watching much Jaguars games. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been watching more games of theirs. And Trevor Lawrence is impressive. Trevor Lawrence has one of the better pocket movements in the NFL already at his young age.
His one issue is that he just breaks the pocket a little bit too fast.
He steps into almost every throw. He doesn't shy away from throws.
Has an amazing arm.
And he just has an amazing feel. Because of that, when I look at what he has already in terms of intangibles and what he showed on tape, and you're adding in Doug Peterson, you have an improved wide receiver core. Although the Jaguars' weapons room is, it's still one of the worst in the league. I mean, last year they had a kick returner and a first-round bust as their best receivers. Now, at least they have a solidified number 2 in Christian Kirk. They have Marvin Jones, who's a deep, deep threat. And now their number 1 last year is now the number 4 in Chenault. So I think that is going to make a pretty significant difference. And Evan Ingram is somebody that he has drop issues, but he's able to win mismatches because he's an athletic guy at the tight end position. And they added a lot in the offseason. Travis Etienne is coming back. Kirk, Zay Jones, Ingram, Brandon Scherf, Fadakazi, Arden Key, Trayvon Walker, Alua Khan, Darius Williams, Devin Lloyd. They added a lot of talent on this roster. Now, Christian Kirk, I understand when he got his contract, everybody was up in arms about it and talked about how he's overpaid. But he's with Kenny Galladay in terms of their value. They're both tied 10th in the league.
And both are terrible
that's not a good
contracts.
thing.
They're tied. He's tied at 14 with Galladay in annual money. He's tied at 15 with Tyler Lockett in guaranteed money. And Kirk's contract is in the ballpark with the Brandon Cooks, Galladay, and Tyler Lockett's. And Kirk last year was 8th in EPA per target. So he produced. And although you can say, yeah, it was with Kyler, like Christian Kirk has showed that he can produce at the NFL level. He's not a high-end number one, but he is by far the best option the Jaguars are going to have. If we look at last season, he is a significant upgrade.
DJ Chark, you're taking him clear over
DJ Chark didn't play last year.
I'm just asking generally. I agree.
I would take Kirk over Chark right now.
And
I think Chark has been hurt. He's only had one big time year.
Time might be gone.
Yeah, you're done with him?
Yeah.
It's tragic, truthfully.
It is, because he's a very talented player, very versatile, but just hasn't really gotten that opportunity. And now we're going to year 3 with him. It's gonna be tough for him to break out, especially now. It's not loaded. I mean, but he has a lot more guys to beat out.
It's Zay Jones and.
If he couldn't do it last year with no one,
agreed.
It's hard for me to get.
It's the both Jones, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones,
and also it's just unfortunate. Like we've spoken to it ad nauseum, truthfully, about how the coaching has put them in such a shitty situation, but that didn't benefit Laviska Shenault by any means either.
That's true. Yeah, he had 600 yards last year. I would like to see him get some more rushing opportunities because he did that in college as well.
Let him be the wide back. He's not in a position where he's not or he shouldn't be open-minded to the idea of being put in more situations with the ball in his hands.
Like last year, Trevor Lawrence made some of the best throws all season that weren't caught. I mean, last year, he was a top 10 quarterback in terms of EPA on perfectly covered plays. But he was the worst on non-perfectly covered plays.
It's like when you're too open for a 3.
Yeah, which means that Trevor Lawrence, when it was smothered, he dropped it right in the breadbasket, but for some reason, when things were open, he just frankly didn't really see it well. But I think that's due in large part to coaching. That's in large part to coaches telling you where to go with the football in certain situations. If this is open, if you read this defender, go here. I feel like Doug Peterson's going to help with that tremendously. And I think that's really the fact that's leading me to say that they're going to win 6 games this year. Okay. I think both the Jets and the Jaguars are in positions to double their win total. 6 games may seem like a stretch, but I think they're going to win 1 against Indianapolis. They just always have their number. Houston, I feel like they can win it or either sweep them. I think most likely it's going to be a
split.
It's going to be a split. Okay. So that's 1 win against Colts, one win against the Texans. I think they beat the Giants. That's their 3rd win. I think they can beat Detroit. That's their 4th win. And I like the Jets. I'm a Jets fan, but they can beat the Jets too.
Low on Detroit or?
I'm not low on Detroit. They're just in the same tier to me. Okay, the Jaguars have a better defense than the Detroit Lions. The Jaguars' defense is their secondary group. You got Shaq Griffin. You have Tyson Campbell. You now have, I forgot their other cornerback that they just added. Oh, Darius Williams. So you now have 3 legitimate starting corners that you have. Their linebacking core got better. Defensive line is a bit better as well. So their defense, I think they have an all-around more balanced team than the Lions. And last year, the Jaguars showed, like, they beat the Bills. They got that surprise win. They competed with the Bengals. The NFL is a league where, you know, they can beat maybe a Denver week 8 or a freaking a Tennessee week 14 or a Dallas week 15 and just shock everybody. So because of that, I think, you know, I give them some of those gimme games, but then I'm taking into account that they're probably going to surprise us with one of those wins against one of the top teams.
That's how I feel about the Lions, so I can understand you feeling that way about this team because you know what? They have young, exciting talent.
Yeah, so that's why I have them at 6-11. It's either 6-11, 5 or 12, but I feel like you're going to see that growth out of Trevor Lawrence this year where he's going to be a top 18 quarterback.
And I'm rooting for that because I want Trevor Lawrence to live up to the expectations that were dawned upon him early in his career. It's unfair to a degree the expectations put on kids' shoulders like that at such a young age. However, I want him to live up to it because you know what? At a certain point, you can't make excuses.
Like stat projection, I'll go like 23, 24 touchdowns to 9, 10 picks.
Limit the turnovers, have a nice touchdown interception ratio. If you're the Jaguars, you're feeling extremely confident.
It's your number 1 priority is just developing him this year.
I think for sure, though, he's going for 4,000 yards.
4,000 with this receiving group?
Yeah, he went for 3,600.
All right, it's possible then. It's possible.
with horrible coaching, 3,600.
And
So-
ETN comes in and he's healthy, and him.
They'll
and
probably
James
lose a lot
Robinson
of
being
games.
out, you know,
I'm
you don't
praying
have.
he's healthy, man.
I don't think the running game is going to be as there.
Nah, ETN's like that.
ETN is. I love ETN, but
Yeah, he's like
it's
that.
just it's a bit different with Robinson not being
You
there.
got him coming off a Liz Frank injury too. Who knows?